So welcome to the AFC Construction Podcast. I'm very excited today to have Tim Brown on. So welcome, Tim.
Hey, thanks for having me, Brad.
Yeah, so Tim is CEO of the Hook Agency and definitely represents all of us in an aspect of our business that's super important, the marketing side, right? And understanding websites and SEO and all the things that go behind it. So, you are one of the reasons I want to bring you on as well, Tim, is because you definitely understand the mentality of a small business owner. And right now, many of us small business owners are dealing with very challenging circumstances, right, in the industry with inflation and supply chain and labor shortages. I mean, it's not just unique to construction. It's pretty much every industry. And since you're a fellow small business owner, what are some of the challenges that we face, that you're facing in today's market?
Yeah, I guess I have to just go off of my last year and some of the issues that we've faced and I can see people facing. I feel like sourcing good help is a really big piece of what the biggest challenge is today. I think even though I see some construction companies they feel like they can fill the seats, getting people that are motivated and really want to be there and are ready to do what needs to be done is still an issue, still making sure that they've got people that are motivated. So I think even if you can get the people into the office or onto the job site, making sure that people are motivated to do things right, because otherwise you just got more people to manage, and that can be very stressful. Even if we're kind of, I think there's a movement in business owners that's like, I want to have some freedom, some time freedom. And I see that all the time. People want time freedom, but getting more employees does not always mean time freedom. Sometimes
Right.
it means like
Yeah.
painful amount of management. So getting people that don't require a ton of management is really the key. And I think it's difficult. So I don't think I have that solved necessarily yet.
Yeah, I don't think any of us have that solved, but I think you touched on something that's important, Tim, because most of us, we may look at, okay, especially as a small business, right? One woman band, one man band, you're wearing a lot of hats, right? Especially a small business owner. As you get busier, you may have the financial stability to bring someone on, to hire someone, to delegate some tasks that supposedly may free you up, right? But there is a fine line to how many people you hire, how much management they take, the training, the execution. Are they communicating with the client the same way I would, right? Are they documenting things properly? Are we, and so there's so many aspects to that, so how do you find, for lack of a better word, qualified people or motivated people, right? Because I think that's tough is, how do you motivate people? Like, how have you done that with your business? How do you consult a business such as myself to do so?
Yeah, I'm not necessarily consulting on that too often, just to be honest with you. I feel like I'm still in the failing a lot, but I can share from an aspect of I've failed a number of times. And I think that's valuable. I think sometimes we get these consultants into our company that want to tell us exactly how to do it. It's like, no, but tell me what you messed up on, because that would really help me right now. I think, well, it's probably nothing you haven't heard before, but the culture piece and having a big why and trying to empower people. And I think none of this is revolutionary, but all of it's good. I feel like lately, as I've been leading people, that I feel like my insights are getting more basic. You know what I mean? Like they bear repeating, you know what I mean? Like, and I think that empowering people, and this is something I need to work on and I've failed a lot on, which is always giving people the answer when they ask a question. And so I think for me, it's getting better at not telling people the answer, but asking them a question, kind of, the Socratic method. So how would you solve that if you trust yourself and asking employees to solve problems on their own instead of giving them the solution? Because the more you give them the solution, the more that they get addicted to you being the one that gives them solutions. And I think that's basically, I think that where I'm at in business, which we have the 16th person starting in a couple weeks, is just, you can't do that anymore. You can't be the guy that gives all the answers constantly. So I think that's what I need to get better on right now.
I love that. I love that you share that, Tim, because I look back and we're very similar size, just to be transparent. We have 16 employees, so we're the same. been in business 9 years. And I look back early on, and it was really difficult for me. I don't want to say I was I was a micromanager, but it was really difficult to hand off certain aspects of the company, right? And especially when it came to, estimating, that's something I did all the time. And now I've kind of stepped away from that. But what I found, and today was really enlightening. In fact, before having you on this afternoon, we had a meeting. This first time, we have production meetings very regularly with our team, and their trainings. We've tried to make them more just not, hey, how's everyone doing? What's your schedule updates? Like they're actual impactful, where the team's leaving with nuggets of information. But today was unique where we have a new hire that he's in school. Actually, he's doing construction management at ASU. His dad's a top architect in town. So he actually grew up as an architect, knows how to read plans, really understands that. And then my senior construction manager really understands the details. And so what they did was I said, we had talked about them conducting the training today, doing a full day training, not a 1 hour production meeting, a full day training. So on their own, they created this question. It was like being back in college, right? This exam. So they had 3 pages of questions, like go to the blueprints and you need to find how many catch basins are on this project. Then go to this one and you need to find where the back gate, what is that elevation point, to top of footing where the gate's installed, and what's the ridge height here. And so very technical things. And so what happened was we're sitting in this conference room and I'm sitting here watching that no matter what level of superintendent or management, they're going through this empowerment, right? Because I have now 2 of my employees teaching everyone. They're making them accountable. They're making me, as the owner of the company, go through the same exam to make sure I know what I'm looking at, right? And so it kind of clicked that I'm like, this is it. Like, this is what I've been looking for so long, that it's like once they're empowered and they believe in what they're doing, like you said, Tim, you said, once they feel they believe in it, they believe in the end result, they're empowered, they have the opportunity to teach and instruct, then now we could step back and let them really create, an amazing workplace.
That's good. Yeah. And it kind of goes to something I've been thinking about a lot lately. It's just, I think to get to the next level where we're going, where you're going potentially, is like this idea of like creating a training company. And it's like, they say a skilled labor shortage, right? There's maybe not quite enough great people around, but if you're willing to be part of the solution to help bring some of those people up and to make a training organization, I think that's how people get past this point. And I think that in a place where there isn't necessarily always, even if they've gone to college or even if they've gone to school for the thing that you're hiring them for, a lot of folks are not ready for the actual job. Like basically you have to train them again anyways. So just making your company a training organization, no matter what you do, I think is just starting to be very valuable, I think, for sure, where we are now and where you guys are now, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I love that you share that, Tim, because I think about, again, going back to our mistakes, which I could spend a whole podcast on this and much more. But, especially early on when I'd hire someone, it's like, hey, kick them off the pier and good luck, figure it out. Like, I didn't provide training. It's just like, you need to go perform. You need to do this. And it's such a bad business approach, because now I look back, and to your point, when you start thinking about company culture, well, as you have that cross training, as you train, it really connects you as a company, as we do these on-site trainings together. So that culture, that friendship, that camaraderie is really built and strengthened, right? And then, as you mentioned, if you're a company of training and you train these, you may have some that leave the nest, right? And they want to do their own thing. But for the most part, those that stay, every job, every project, every year, they're going to get more refined and better. And so you end up creating this well-oiled machine as to the best of your ability in a very unpredictable market.
Feel that.
And so, from your side, Tim, as you start thinking about, when you're looking at not only your business and the companies you consult with, what should be the primary focus, that small companies should look at outside of the training? You saw this aspect that, hey, we need to train. Yeah. What else should companies be focusing on?
I guess part of it is whatever currently hurts. Because, hey, people have different pain points. We may have solved the lead problem for ourselves. We have a lot of leads for our own business, but maybe we need to work on the closing problem, closing more deals. We're a little higher priced than some companies, so closing might be the current pain. And retention has been a pain during this past year with employees, because just people are giving weirdly high numbers to other people. So, and I'm in a surging market. We sell SEO, so search engine optimization, and that has been something that a lot of more companies decided they wanted during COVID. And so employees got yanked, and that was scary. And so that's our current pain. I think letting the pain guide you is a beautiful thing. So if you're losing employees, then that should be the number one thing. How can I stop the pain of that? And then if you don't have any pain guiding you, I promise there will be some soon. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
No,
there's no doubt about that.
Yeah. I really like Tim Ferriss's thing he talks about just in time knowledge versus just in case knowledge. And that's been very helpful to me. So I'll read a book because I know next week I need this information versus like I used to read every philosophy book and psychology book and sociology book that I could get my hands on because I want to know I want to know the secret of the universe. And now I'm like, next week it's going to hurt if I don't understand this aspect of finances. I'm going to read so I think a couple of the biggest problems right now are probably retention of employees and making your work more meaningful, trying to make even somewhat mundane work meaningful. Because if you think about it, millennials, people my age, and actually Gen Z, I think goes up to like 24 now. So Gen Z is entering the work market, and they invest with their conscience. They also are going to invest their time with their conscience. And so if there's some element of meaningfulness, like if you're a home builder, remodeler, et cetera, even if you're like one of the more specialized trades or whatever, if you can find a way to make that meaningful, you're going to have a better time retaining people. And customer service and making people's lives better is part of that. I really like the way my friend Torlando Hakes talked about helping someone get in their ideal home is basically the top of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You're actually like providing meaning. If they can be in their home and feel like it reflects their ideal state, then you're actually helping them achieve meaning in their lives, and that's worthwhile. So to me, there's ways to position what you're offering as a service in a more meaningful way. And I think that's going to become more important. And I think the other one that I've seen a lot of contractors struggle with, and we've struggled with as well, is just profitability and focusing on profitability, not just that top line revenue number. So those are two big problems, I think. Retention through meaning and not getting too attached to glamour metrics like revenue when profits important.
Yeah, profit. I love that you share that though. I mean, when you start thinking about the complexity of that, of retention and, how do you create a meaningful workplace, no matter your business, how do you keep people engaged? How do you keep them enthused? How do you keep them motivated? And retention's key because, and again, as I consult with a lot of business owners, right, there's some that have different, strategies, if you will, on how to retain employees. And because some employees, they may need time, right? They may need personal time, vacation time. Some employees want money, right? Some employees want the culture. They want the community. They want to feel important. So it's kind of like our own children, right? Understanding what drives each of them and understanding how that plays in the workplace. And then there is some truth that some employees do want, like you said, it's really tough to retain employees because someone down the street may offer them, $2 more an hour and they're going to go. And I know that's an issue with a lot of my trade partners. They have framing crews and they'll have a great framing crew that's offered $2 more an hour to go work for this other guy. So they're gone and it's just no loyalty, right? And so you think about, well, what is the cost of replacement, right? What is the cost for me to retrain, to teach the culture, the system? Is it worth just evaluating, looking at the profitability, like you're mentioning, Tim, but just saying, okay, should I just give this person a bump? Maybe we always do end of year, but maybe do mid-year. Maybe we look at this and say, hey, let's do something. Let's incentivize them because then at least, I know that if they leave, it's going to be much more painful. And how many times do people say, well, you never took care of me? you overworked me. You didn't, that's why I'm going elsewhere. And then when it comes time, well, they're throwing money at them. They're already gone because emotionally they're like, I'm done. I want to go out to the next venture.
Hmm. No, that's super important. And we've been doing the same thing with the mid-year stuff. Even if it feels a little crazy, I think, hey, let's just talk about that inflation number right now. It's kind of stupid. So even if
Gas
like
prices.
if you're giving them a 2% raise, you're giving them like their income's going down. So like just remember that, and you know that, I know that, and we've had to raise our prices. You've had to probably raise your prices, and it's just basically understanding. I think people know that automatically because they're getting bread for $4 instead of $2. So it's just kind of it's something that's in their face, and they know it.
So how do you work with, when you start thinking about leads, and I know you'll have your own leads, but you also consult with companies on leads. I mean, how do you target that aspect, especially with SEO? Because SEO can be very challenging, and maybe dive into depth a little bit about the value, because a lot of people in this day and age maybe are looking at social media, or maybe they're looking at word of mouth and still not concentrate on the value of, WordPress and website. And, how do you create a winning website with good SEO content?
Yeah, I'll just kind of sell the idea of SEO for a second. Here's the deal. What is the intent? Think about it impartially for you when you get on Facebook. Like think about that. How do you use Facebook? I'm not usually in a search mode. I don't know how often I use the search function of Facebook. Like I'm not usually looking for a provider. If I do, and this is the part you should be on Facebook, community groups and referral partners. That is powerful to me. Like and get like if there's one thing besides SEO that I think people should focus on is getting a couple service providers kind of like them that are in these community groups and referring each other out back and forth, being hey, I've got this company for this company for this company for this. I'm always tagging them. They're going to see when I tag them on Facebook and asking them to do the same in these community groups. But the the intent when you get on Google is to find something, right? In general, that's usually the main intent. So I just think intent, be there when they're searching. You want to be there when they're searching. And that usership on Google has gone up. It went up even more during COVID. It might have gone up unnaturally high, but it's still, higher than it was before, and the people are more online than before. So there's a lot of volume and the amount of searches. And to me, it's just all about the intent. So that's why I like Google. Like I've been involved with social media marketing. I used to do it. That's how I got my start in marketing a little bit. Love it. It's great. We use it for our business. It's hard to do from an outside company perspective. So we're just focused on where we can offer value. But the two biggest things in SEO or getting higher on Google are really, it's all about the content. So it's all about answering, let's say, questions that you get in the sales process a lot. Using a tool like Ahrefs or SEMrush, that's ahrefs.com, or SEMrush, SEMrush.com. By the way, they just went public. Giant ton of money coming into search right now, which is kind of cool, but it just kind of shows you that like people are valuing this stuff more. We don't have that many companies that go public in SEO, so that's a big deal. But yeah, there's both of those tools allow you to put your competitors in and see what they rank for, and you can see, hey, look at this, they're getting a bunch of volume for helical piers or whatever, like, and why? Well, they have a page on their website about that service, and they are, you can go look at their page. What is up with that page? Well, maybe that page has 500 words of content. So finding the pages that competitors are putting out there, and also just looking at how much volume there is for different searches. So the things you want to rank for, custom home builder in your city, whatever it happens to be, kitchen remodeling in. So finding those keywords that are worth spending the time and effort on, and just, it's all about empathy. What would I want if I was searching that topic, right? If I was searching that topic, what am I looking for? You can Google it yourself. I spend a lot of time just Googling stuff and looking at what Google is showing. And honestly, their algorithm is pretty good nowadays. So usually they're pretty good about showing what people are clicking on and really using that, Googling what you want to show for, looking at what they're showing for that, and beating those pages. So that means putting more content on your key service pages, even if, and I know that this is a common thing with remodelers and home builders. They want it to look pretty and they want it to be sparse because they know no one reads. And that's true. No one reads. But Google reads. Google reads more than anyone because they have their bots going out every day. And if there's not enough content on that site, so there's ways to do that where you can make a beautiful portfolio, and then beneath that you can have a couple key sections with content, and then let's say have a expand and contract FAQ section, which is like one of our signature moves. So you can get 500 words into this FAQ section on each of the service pages about, hey, these are things people are asking, but we don't need to make it gigantic and take up a bunch of space. It can contract. But there's ways to get more content onto your key service pages. SEO beats out social because, well, think about it. Just a real quick note on this. Like, they both sell advertising, Facebook and Google. Guess who has more revenue? Double the revenue, actually, Google. So, I mean, hey, they've either gotten much better at the advertising model, or, people are making a smart decision with their advertising dollars and doing it based on where people are. And it comes down to, it's not even that Google has that much more traffic, it's that the intent is to search, and often search for services. So I think Google is a very good place to spend your effort and just your time trying to rank.
It's interesting. I actually was taking a lot of notes and made a lot of, was writing down a lot here as you were speaking, Tim, because as you think about this, and you put it together perfectly, where although some of us may have seen success from social media, right? We may get some leads, you have a term in sales, you have silent sales people, right? People that sell your brand that aren't on your payroll, that are following you. They believe in the culture and what you're doing. And yeah, clients may come from that, whether it be LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. But really, when people are searching, I need a custom builder, right? I need someone to remodel my kitchen. They're not going to Instagram and searching hashtags. They're not going to Facebook. They're going to Google saying, I need a remodeler in Tempe, Arizona, right? And that's where the value is, because when you're solving a pain point, when actually people, the intent for the platform is to search for somebody, you need to have a presence there. And really, that's exactly what you're saying right now, Tim.
And I'll just say this. So we don't currently do social media marketing, but I just to make sure that it's clear, we've helped a high-end home builder sell a $2 million home on Instagram. So like when we were doing that as a service, I know that it does happen.
Yeah.
It's just, it's a little less likely. So it's basically, and it's also very hard to do as an outside company. So note that I am doing this based on what I think an outside company can help with. You as a builder or remodeler, those things do sell. Please continue doing it. Please be on Instagram. Please be using the hashtags. Everything, it all matters. It's really kind of, for me, it's what's scalable from the outside perspective. And yes, I do think it sells more stuff, but they're both really important.
Yeah, and that's a clear distinction. I mean, the reality is you're a consultant, as we're hiring you, Tim, right, to help our marketing strategy and SEO. I mean, that's where the value is for you to come in. Me as an individual enterprise, yeah, there's no doubt that being on different platforms, to be exposed to different demographics and people, and you want to be everywhere, right? It's that ripple effect. The more places you are, the more eyes that can see you, and so there's values on different platforms. It's just what works through you. But what I love is the content side, because I think this is where most of us struggle, is that life's busy, work's busy. Our jobs are chaotic right now. We're dealing with retention, as you mentioned. But when you start thinking about the pain points, which you alluded to, and this is where the FAQs, right? The frequently asked questions, or, as you go in, whether you have a blog on the website and you have, as you mentioned, Google's going through the website and they're analyzing how many words do you have, because we're not reading it, but Google is, this is where we can start helping the consumer base find us by having topics that people need to understand and look at. And I do know from my side, just some videos, talking about hillside build, talking about what does it take, what's the design, the timeline process to build a custom home. These are some simple things I've done either YouTube videos on or blogs. And it's funny how many people call it because they were searching that and then it pops up.
Totally. Video is a huge way to make this happen too, where you can also explain something in detail. You could have a writer later take that video and turn it into a blog post. I'm a big fan of, let's say, creating one pillar piece of content and then breaking that down into 5 other pieces of content. That's an awesome way to do it. Also, if you embed a video into a blog post or a service page, another beautiful thing about it is, 1, it gets a lot of times it gets crawled faster, and 2, people stay on the page longer if they ever interact with that video. So the more you can get people to spend time on your website, the more Google thinks it really delivered what the user wanted, basically. So by embedding videos, you get people to stay on there longer. We call that dwell time. It just means, hey, did somebody stay on this website a while? Like, Google is trying to analyze whether it's fulfilling the intent, basically.
So let me ask you this, because this is really fascinating. I mean, now, not that you didn't have my attention before, but you definitely have it now too, because when you think about, okay, if you're going to create, a piece of content, let's break that down into 5, because now you're really solving a pain for us, the customer, right? And then you start looking at, well, if you have a video on there, you could transcribe this and now put it into the content, you put it on the website. And then, as you mentioned, you can embed the video into the blog post. So now you're creating so many different ways to capture that audience and that SEO content. And so when you're working with your clientele, when you're working with a business such as mine, I mean, are you pushing video? Are you seeing that really valuable, as you mentioned now?
Oh yeah, we love it. We love clients that do video. It's just so much more effective. Like, we can turn those into blog posts. We know everything works together. So I know social and video work together with SEO, because essentially another thing is that Google is operating by parsing out, sorry, going technical for a second.
It's okay, please.
Parsing out entities, right? Like, a brand is an entity, an individual is an entity. It's trying to parse out authoritative entities. So for instance, if you have a lot of people searching a finer touch and that brand seems like a well sought after brand, then it helps the other things that you're doing on search. So I think of brand, it's something that I don't push a lot to our customers, because it sounds like marketing fluff and bullshit. But a brand does help your search, basically the algorithm, a lot, because Google really is looking for these authoritative entities. And social helps, and it does actually help a little bit, like the shares and stuff on social. It's called social signals. It's not that big of a help on search, but it does play a factor. And then branded search, the amount of times people are searching your company name, also helps the other things on your website rank, because it looks like this is an authoritative source. And
so go ahead, keep going, Tim.
Actually, I think I wrapped up my thought there. That was kind of
sorry. Yeah, as I cut you off. But it's interesting because, as you mentioned, when you're speaking about whether you're a thought leader or the authoritative sense, right? So in essence, by doing these videos and capturing that, as people are looking up, Hook Agency or Tim Brown, they're looking up AFT or whatever it may be, as Google sensing, hey, this is a keyword, this brand continues to be searched. It's, we see it on YouTube, which is connected to Google. We see it on, whether it be the blogs or whether it be Instagram and these other platforms, that now they're sensing, as you mentioned, that there's a thought leader. So now it's going to continue to reward you because it views you as being, a thought leader in regard to your industry.
In addition, like people operate that way as well. We're attracted to a trusted name. People link to your stuff more often because they recognize the name. So you get more links that way too. So everything kind of works together. That's why I love encouraging construction owners and their marketing people to really focus on video. It's a beautiful thing. I don't think, if you're a small company, do I want it to be 50% of your marketing budget? No. And that's not just for my own kind of like, I'd like some space in that marketing budget too. It's also, maybe it is a little, but I think that people get caught up, because once again, like basically I'll just tell a brief story to illustrate this. I was at a trade show recently in Orlando, and a guy walked by with a very, very fancy rig, a very cool video setup. And he was just doing video at the trade show. First of all, who is that for? Do you think homeowners are going to give a shit? Probably not. But he walks by, and I was like, dang, dude, how much was that? Because I'm not, what do you call that?
Not
I probably should
bashful.
have asked that. Yeah, probably shouldn't have asked. But he said 10K. And I'm like, that's pretty good. I mean, video equipment is not that expensive nowadays. But I'll be honest, I use my phone a lot.
Yeah.
And it's a lot more about the content nowadays than having perfect
Right.
4K video every single time. Anyways, we were doing a little kind of challenge at this trade show that just said like, do you rank? So we had a sign that said, do you rank? And we typed in their city plus their main service. And I couldn't find them at first, and I think they kind of wandered off. And I kind of scrolled, and I got to like the 6th or 7th page. First of all, this is a badass company, probably like 20, 30 million, whatever. Pretty, like they should rank. They should rank for this,
Yeah.
for this city plus service, right? Found them finally on like the 6th or 7th page. And I walked over because you should rank for your city plus service. That's a really good money making thing because that is the way a lot of people search. And I found very quickly that when I kind of wasn't trying to be weird, but I just said, hey, just so you guys know, you guys don't rank. And the guy was like upset with me, and he was like, don't. He's telling me it didn't matter. He got kind of angry and flustered in front of everyone. I didn't mean to do that, but I'll just say this is like, that guy is having fun because video is fun. It's not fun? Sitting around doing a bunch of content all day to get your thing to rank on Google. Like video is, I get it. I want to do video more often than I want to do the hard, weird, gritty work of ranking on Google. And not to say that they don't work together, but I'm just saying I don't think people should be spending half their time on video when this is the real reason I don't think everyone should be spending half their time on video. When you put out a video on Facebook, even a really good one, how many views does it get?
Not a whole
Naturally.
lot. Not on Facebook. Yeah.
Like 20, dude.
Yeah.
Like, and I have
Barely.
5,000 likes on my Facebook page. I can promote that. I can spend another $500 to get that in front of everyone that needs to see it. And yes, that is the way to do it. If you do video,
Pay to play.
you should always pay. Like otherwise you shouldn't be making that video. If you're not going to pay because basically eyeballs are really important for this video stuff. And if you don't have eyeballs, you shouldn't be making the videos, basically.
Yeah.
So I just see it get ballooned out. It gets very expensive to do video in a way that, because it's really all about how many eyeballs see that. And it's unfortunate, but almost no eyeballs on Facebook. Now, LinkedIn is another story, weirdly, and that works for us, but it probably is not going to be as big of an audience for most construction companies. But yeah, it's just hard to get eyeballs. And most of us are not going to be crazy influencers. I'm not going to say that you're not. I'm not saying that the person listening to this is not going to be one, but it's kind of a long shot. So I don't build my strategy around like virality or influencer stuff. You want to find a way that you can scale it. And I think, unfortunately, it's hard to get views on videos.
Yeah, it is. But you've left a lot of good insight, very valuable insight, Tim. I mean, even speaking about you see someone at the trade conference that has spent a lot in video equipment. They're doing the video. But then the reality is the most important asset is where do they rank, right? And as you search for them, hey, home remodeler in Dallas, Texas, where do they fit if that's their scope of work? Because that should be the focus, because Google is where people are driving. And yes, the video will enhance that, but as you mentioned, there's a lot of cost to video, right? Just in the equipment,
If you're
the
number
shooting.
one, if you're like number 1 through 5 on that first page, go ahead, double down on video. I'm cool with it. But basically get the like non-nice to haves down. Build the
So
audience, I guess. Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, so really, as you're thinking about this, if a company's thinking about marketing, I mean, it's one thing to say, okay, if I'm a small business, where do I start? Well, there's a lot of things to focus on, but if I'm just focusing on my marketing strategy, being a young company, how would you counsel someone like that, Tim? Because I'm sure, I mean, for you, you have a very diverse portfolio of clientele. So some may have, at a point in their business where they're looking to get up on the Google rankings, where they're looking to maybe enhance video, and so their budget may change. But if someone's saying, okay, I'm fairly new, or I'm pretty seasoned, I only have so much for marketing, where should I focus my time and effort?
Personal network and referrals. And even some of your personal like social media pages. Like I would get a little bit more community connected on those things. I mean, I did that too. I bootstrapped my business from zero. I mean, you can blog, you can connect with people on social media. I will say I do like social media for that instance when you're super early, because it's free. Anything that's free,
Right.
go hard. But do find a rhythm and kind of a ritual that's weekly around doing these key marketing efforts. And I always talk about Saturday morning. I think if I scare you with the Saturday morning talk, then you're not ready for entrepreneurship. But hey, blogging, connecting with as many people as possible. If you are in the aesthetic trades, like a home builder, remodeler, yes, Instagram, liking, commenting, connecting with people in the community. And one way to do that on any social platform that I like is just find pages like yours in the community and follow the people that liked and commented on their stuff. So that works for any platform. Find somebody similar to you and basically connect with their very active users. And that's free. That's free. I'll do that all day. And
I love you
blogging
shared that real
free.
quick, Tim. It's interesting because I've known a lot of people, especially because one of the challenges, let's just take, for example, Instagram right now. It's a platform that, because, the way the algorithms are set up, it's much of a pay for play now, and it's a lot harder to grow organically as opposed to maybe 3 years ago or 4 years ago. But the truth be told, as you mentioned, when you're looking for those loyal followers, there are a lot of people that have grown a lot of success, and what they do is they go to similar accounts, right? So if they're in the architectural community, they'll go to big architectural accounts because they always have these same 20 people, 30 people, 40 people that are always commenting on the same one. And so they'll go connect with them, they'll respond. And so they start little engagement pods with the post, whether it be LinkedIn or Instagram. And then those people start following them. So what you're doing is you're not stealing them, you're just capturing another set of eyes that are already engaging on the platform and already have interest because they're commenting.
Yeah. And I think it gets a little less, I guess it feels like a lot of time. Let's say if you're running a small business to commit. So if you want to think about it as referral partnerships, it might help you a little bit, because if you have other trade people in the community or other companies kind of like yours, back and forth with those people and share their stuff and tag them and stuff, and like and follow their people and all that too. But it definitely helps when you're in a smaller community, because it's a little bit clearer who the people are. And it doesn't have to be just construction. It doesn't have to be just trades. It could be, hey, the chiropractic clinic. It could be all the people, like in your community that have a high-end clientele. There's opportunity if you think a little bit scrappy, if you also tag people and you kind of get like, this is what I love about video too, is like doing video with referral partners in the community and talking to them, actually going to their office or their, to talk about something that would engage both of your audiences and kind of cross-pollinate the audiences. And I think that part makes a little bit more sense to people that aren't naturally like motivated on the marketing side, because they can actually talk about your company to humans. That word of mouth marketing can also happen. It just also happens on social media too. Like, I think for people that aren't super into marketing, they basically, Facebook and social media is just word of mouth advertising with a little bit of screens between us. So there's nothing wrong with making it crossover into the real world, making videos together, and then tagging each other on social media. I think that's another easy way to like kind of introduce yourself to this if you're not naturally motivated on marketing.
Tim, I love these shares. I think you nailed it, because as you were speaking about that cross branding, I was thinking just application, right? I look, we spend a lot of time on social media, and we did work for a client here, Brian Harris, and he was on the podcast early on. He's a cosmetic dentist, has a huge platform. I mean, a huge network on social media. He's a thought leader. He goes and trains doctors and dentists all around the country on cosmetic dentistry. And it's funny because through that cross branding or tagging, tagging him tagging me, one of my clients found him. They went and had their veneers done through Brian, right? And I've had, I think, 2 or 3 clients now that were clients of Brian that found me through his platform, right? So this is someone that's not in construction. They're not in architecture, not design. They just know Brian, and that cross branding as we share each other's work or relationship or things he's doing marketing wise. It's funny, those people come over to my platform and now have hired us. And so to your point, that's where if you don't have a ton of time, yes, by sharing stories, sharing posts with people inside and outside your industry, more importantly outside, because now you're going to get different eyeballs that, just bring them over to your side.
Exactly. And hey, we do that with SEO stuff too, where for especially people in a little bit smaller communities, we actually create lists on their website of similar, I guess not similar, services in the community that would be for similar type of people. So the 10 best restaurants, the 10 best dentists, the 10 best whatever, you can create those lists, especially if you're in a smaller community. It's kind of easier to hit all those lists and actually have some context. If you're a business owner being a little bit scrappy about this, and then send that list that has that person on it to that person and tell them that you put them in their list. So they're now going to be more likely to be an advocate for you when they're out talking to people face to face.
And that advocation is huge. It's funny because you said earlier dwell time, right? That's the term you used. And in essence, that's what you're doing. I mean, you're creating dwell time. You're creating a reason, even if it's not construction related or design or architecture related, that they're coming onto the website because there's other value there. You're providing that, again, it's that collaboration, it's that reciprocity, right? That's bringing clients between the businesses.
Yeah. And then just to kind of relate it back to the SEO side, like I want to be an authority on that city. That's why we do it as an SEO company. We want to be the authority for that city so we can start to get essentially good algorithmic benefit for all the terms that we want to rank for in that city. So that's kind of why we do it. We've seen it kind of have osmosis to the other topics that we want to rank for.
So life, it's funny as an entrepreneur, and you definitely have that entrepreneur makeup, right, Tim? And you have this energy about you that's very unique, and but it could be tough. Being an entrepreneur changes many times throughout the day, and I'm sure there's times you're like, why am I doing this? I mean, looking back at your entrepreneurial career, what are some of the challenges like you had early on, or even now, just trying to solve the pain point for us contractors?
Yeah. I think I'm a hopeful guy, and I always kind of assume that the next like couple pivots are going to solve whatever issue I've got, um, so haven't always been completely focused on contractors and construction companies, home services. We So one of my biggest challenges was writing for different industries. Like we write at scale for people. So that was very difficult. It's a lot easier to do when you're niched. So that was a
Mhm.
big existential crisis like last year and earlier this year when we finally niched. Um, but other things have just been retaining employees, like I had mentioned. That's a big one. Finding a way to It's not only you're retaining an employee, you're retaining the information that you've given, when you've built into somebody for a long period of time and then that goes away. So it starts to become more important because it's like especially for the very specific jobs that you need done, um, that require a lot of context. Becomes more and more important to keep those people that are smart around so that you can retain all of the information you've given. Another one has been around like coaches. So I have been coached a lot. I've hired coaches, thousands of dollars a month. Grateful for everything they taught me. I've had coaches around sales. I've had coaches around leadership. Um, had coaches around niching. And at a certain point, I kind of still meet with mentors and stuff like that, but I've kind of I have coaches or mentor type people working with my employees a little bit more now because I describe it this way, and this is like really overselling it because I'm not that smart, but you feel like you got this heavy brain, and it's just like without the team being on point, it doesn't matter how smart you can get. That's how it feels to me. I know that I can help people to a certain degree on my team, but I'm also paying for some mentorship to the people on my team, um, because some of this stuff is a little over my head. And so it's kind of the idea of scaling mentorship to the team, and it can't always just be me. I just don't feel I'm not a natural born manager type. So I'm trying to find ways to kind of help these people get mentorship beyond me.
And I love that you share that. I mean, you think about the coaching angle. One thing many of us fail to do, and I looked at this early on, is you're trying to figure out by yourself how to run your business. You're trying to figure out all the pitfalls, and the problem is you don't know what you don't know, right? And so by not having a coach or not having mentors, it's really hard to look around every corner. It's really hard to prepare your business for the things that may or may not come up. And so I see value there, and I'm glad you shared that because I look back now, we were fortunate to join a Builder 20 program. We're part of CBUSA, which is a national buying group. And so twice a year, at Builder 20, and then 6 times a year through CBUSA, right? I'm networking with contractors. I'm understanding litigation issues they're dealing with. How much are they paying their people? How much are they paying, how much are they charging customers, right? So all these little nuances of the business, right? That supply chain. And so you're dealing with people that are like-minded, mentors, coaches, if you will, that now are helping me hopefully be a better business owner, right? Create a better culture for our team. And, it's so valuable to have someone that's not in the business every day like you, Tim, that can say, hey, look, I've been there, I've done that. Why don't you look at X, Y, and Z?
Absolutely. I love mentorship. I love paid coaches. I love all that stuff. I wish I could spend more on it for myself, but kind
So,
of got to make decisions about who you got to get the other people up there too.
yeah, and I love that you do that too for the team. I mean, that's
Yeah.
super valuable. Just when you start thinking about the company culture, for you and something, this is what you touched on. And I think it's important, for us as we look at our business, but for you, I mean, you had talked about that you had worked as, doing marketing SEO for all companies, and now it's more of a niche, right? You're focusing on certain
Yeah.
ones. I mean, what made that transition and how has that been beneficial, being a little bit more targeted on your clientele?
Yeah, there's kind of goods and bads to that. So the biggest good thing is because writing is such a big part of our service because SEO is a lot about written word basically. the ability to do that at scale for construction companies is a little bit more reasonable. It's still a little ridiculous, to be honest with you. It's like, what are these guys writing then? Well, you'd be surprised. I mean, our average client has over 100% more traffic year over year and over 50% more leads year over year, which is kind of crazy. And we don't even take clients in their first couple of years of business. So this isn't like 3 visitors to 9
To six,
visitors.
yeah.
This is like thousands more and hundreds more leads a lot of times. So it's it is a lot of, like kind of sourcing expertise from other places on the internet, and it all has to be original content, stuff like that. But basically that was the reason. That was a big reason we niched. And you know what's beautiful? Like, people actually do start to see us as a little bit of an authority in the contractor space, just because we have more credibility. You have more credibility when you specialize in something. And hey, I might be just as good of an SEO company for dentists. And actually we still have a dentist client from back in the day, and we actually are really good for them. But you don't come off as credible, like, because when you don't have the language that they have. So that's, as a B2B company, as a company serving businesses, they want to hear the language. And I think as a specialized company, you have so much more nuance around all the little intricacies of that one thing. So for me, it's construction marketing, but whatever that happens to be for you, you'll have so much more context, and it definitely makes things, it solved like a couple big problems we had just straight out the gate. So that was a beautiful thing. I'm less stressed now. So that's part of the reason. I don't think I quite understood how much I would be less stressed, but I am less stressed. So that's good.
Well, I think you solved it already in this episode.
Yeah.
Then, I mean, the key, we're all trying to be less stressed, but
Yeah.
I mean, if you're looking at being devil's advocate, right? If you're looking at the con, right? Maybe to some extent, and it may not, it may limit, at least the lead generation or who you're looking at going towards. But the value proposition, as you mentioned, now you can become more refined in your process because, hey, we're writing. So, similar industry, understanding keywords, understanding the flow, that business to business side, as we're creating this content. And then, of course, how it just allows more synergy, right, between you and the end customer. Now you can really hit your stride. And, it's a super valuable lesson to understand, how important it is to understand your wheelhouse and that niche that you work in.
Exactly.
And so, Tim, I mean, what's the best advice you were given, whether it be from a mentor, a coach, or just in your career?
I'm going to go simple on this one. Trust yourself. You have more context on your situation than anyone else. So I talked about coaches. I'll give this as a counterpoint. You know more about all the intricacies of your situation than any coach, any consultant, any outside company, even your wife. What? You have more context than anyone else. So use that context and trust yourself. Do take advice, but always take it with a grain of salt.
Is there a time, especially recently, I mean, through the chaos of the last year and a half, where you've really had to trust yourself despite things happening around you, or maybe, like you said, as you're starting to hone in, your demographic and your network?
Yeah, I think it's definitely because I'm still responsible for hiring. So each of those hires and each of the times we've had to let somebody go. I'm now at that point in my business where I've had to do that a number of times, and it all requires trusting yourself, and you can't fully give that context to an outside person. But yeah, probably the biggest one is the niche thing, because that does seem like a big leap of faith. But like, the information I have that a lot of outside people don't have is how many leads that we have all the time from construction companies. So it's like, I'm not scared, because 70% of our leads are construction companies now, because we have so many good case studies. So it's basically like, that's just a great example of, like, we have all that information. We know our real lead flow. And then, like, but people, I do get scared, but sometimes, like, I've had people come like, what are you doing? Like, why would you do that? Like, that's scary. You guys do beautiful websites for everybody. I'm like, yes. And that is the scary part, but your lead flow, whatever it is. So
Yeah, I love these share that. It's interesting. Just thinking about the hiring and firing, right? It's just like Disney, right? Slow to hire, quick to fire, which is tough. I mean, it's tough to implement that. It's tough to create that culture. And, sometimes we had that instance, a few years ago where we just had a challenge with one of our employees, and it was, as much as you can consult with other people, or you just know that this person's not right for the fit, the culture, the company, how they communicate with our customer, and you just know that you have to let them go. And it's a hard conversation. I mean, that's definitely the hardest one we have as entrepreneurs and business owners. I totally agree.
Somebody said 72 hours of pain. And I found that helpful, even if it was maybe a little bit more pain than that, but it was kind of a helpful thought, the day before, the day of, and the day after.
Yeah,
it is painful, but if it's the right thing, it might be the right thing for them too. They might feel that it's time to move on as well.
Yeah, it's a good perspective. There's 70 hours of pain, and the reality is for the trajectory of the company, right? If it's going to be much better, that's so the decision has to be made.
Yep, and you're actually that's actually what helps motivate me a little bit when I have to do that. It's just the people around that person, their lives are actually going to get better.
Yeah,
and they know. It's usually they know.
Yeah, well, you've been amazing, Tim. I mean, it's just incredible, your wealth of knowledge. And I mean, there's so many things you shared today just about the value of, for those who are concerned about time and where do I put my assets, right? Especially with SEO, and, take a video, break it down, embed it in your blog post. I mean, just valuable stuff. And so for those listening, Tim, what do you have upcoming and exciting?
Well, I've got a trade show this next month. I'm going to Roofing Process Conference in Florida again. Something that's going on our website right now, if you want to check it out, is we're doing a free Google Ads opportunity report. So we'll put together how many leads you could get if you did Google Ads with a certain amount of budget. We'll break that down for you and give it to you. I think that's helpful. A lot of people want to get started with Google in some way, and this is kind of the easy way. Google Ads is a little bit easier way to get started than SEO sometimes for people. It's a little bit clear cut, a little bit sooner reward, and so that's available on our site. It's just the top bar on the website right now. It's showing up. So check that out. There's an example on there of one, and just check out our website in general, hookagency.com.
We'll do that. And so outside of hookagency.com, where else can our listeners find you?
Yeah, if you just throw Tim Brown Hook Agency into LinkedIn or Facebook, I'm active on both of them. I kind of treat Facebook like LinkedIn accidentally. Once I realized the Facebook page stopped having any organic reach whatsoever, I just kind of turned my personal profile into business page. Oops.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Tim, you've been amazing. I really appreciate joining us today, and thanks for all the knowledge you shared.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.